Hi everyone, Peter here from Flow High Performance, and in this video we will cover how to periodize hypertrophy training from mesocycle to mesocycle for long-term muscle growth. We first need to start with a baseline mesocycle of training to be able to apply long-term progression to. Here we have the mesocycle that was created in the previous video as an example. Throughout the rest of this video, we'll progress this mesocycle over time to establish a long-term periodization plan. There are four primary methods we can use to progress training from mesocycle to mesocycle. These methods can be used strategically in different ways based on how the athlete is responding to training. Each strategy should be applied to individual exercises rather than the entire program based on how each exercise and muscle group is responding. It is also important to understand that the basic mesocycle structure remains the same, and only small changes should be made at any given time. The first method of progression is to actually change nothing at all. This may still allow progressive overload to be achieved, as the trainee may have become bigger and stronger from the last mesocycle. This means that even if nothing has changed, the trainee may be able to perform more reps with the same load at the same proximity to failure. For example, let's take the incline dumbbell press from Monday's session. Let's say that the trainee performed the following reps for each set. As we can see here, the reps increase naturally each week because the reps in reserve are decreasing, meaning that the trainee is pushing closer and closer to failure with each set. In the next mesocycle, the trainee may not change any variables but still improve performance. For example, it may look something like this. As we can see here, no variables have changed, although the reps performed per set are greater in the second mesocycle compared to the first. This method won't allow linear progress for a long period of time, so it may only be able to be used for 1 to 2 mesocycles in a row. The next progression method is to increase load of the exercise being performed. So once the trainee has performed the first mesocycle of training, the load can be increased slightly for the next mesocycle. Let's use the same example of the incline dumbbell press from Monday's training session. After the first mesocycle has been performed, the load may increase from 35 kilos to 37.5 kilos, while all other variables remain the same. The reps performed for the second mesocycle may now be lower than the first because the load has increased. This is not an issue as long as the reps don't drop below 6 on average for compound lifts or 8 on average for isolation lifts. Or if the athlete feels joint discomfort with this new heavier load, then this may not be a viable option. This progression method can be used until the rep ranges drop too low for optimal hypertrophy adaptations. The next method of progression we have is to change exercises for a particular muscle group. This will provide a new stimulus for the trainee to adapt to and allow further progress to be made. Exercises should only be changed if progress has stagnated or the exercise is causing joint irritation. This is because if we change exercises too frequently, we may not actually give ourselves enough time to progress with that exercise. Let's use the same example of the incline dumbbell press exercise. Let's say the trainee has performed this exercise for multiple mesocycles in a row, they've increased the load over time, and have increased how many reps they've performed. They may now have reached a plateau with this exercise and need to change it. A similar movement involving the same muscle groups can now be implemented to replace the incline dumbbell press. This could be replaced with a flat dumbbell press, weighted dips, or an inclined barbell press to target the chest, triceps, and front delts. For this example, let's simply implement the flat dumbbell press as a new exercise. The trainee can now continue to progress with this exercise for the next 3 to 6 mesocycles before changing exercises once again. And the last method of progression that can be implemented is to increase volume for a particular muscle group. This should only be applied once all other progression methods have been exhausted. By increasing the number of sets that a trainee performs for a muscle group, more hypertrophy adaptation should be seen. It is important to understand that this cannot be applied indefinitely for all muscle groups simultaneously. Only 1 to 2 muscle groups should increase volume beyond initial levels at any given time. Let's use the chest as an example for this trainee. So we have a total of 18 sets for the chest distributed between Monday and Thursday sessions. The trainee can increase the volume by 2 to 4 weekly sets to achieve an increase in volume. So for this example, let's say the trainee adds 1 additional set to each bench press session. This would mean that 4 sets of bench press are performed each session, taking the total chest volume up to 20 weekly sets. Now that we have explored the various progression methods that can be employed from mesocycle to mesocycle, we need to understand when to use each method. Unfortunately, there is no set method that can be implemented for everyone. The individual needs to use knowledge and experience to determine what is the best method of progression to implement at any given time. However, here is a general example to show to see how this could potentially be implemented. Let's use the chest muscle group as an example once again. So we can see here that the first mesocycle follows our initial 5-week plan. We have the bench press, incline dumbbell press, and the cable flies, using 18 weekly sets. In mesocycle 2, we may keep everything the same as performance is still progressing well. Then in the following mesocycle, load may increase as the trainee has become bigger and stronger. In mesocycle 4, the trainee may increase volume up to 20 weekly sets from 18 while maintaining the other variables. Then in mesocycle 5, all variables are maintained to try and squeeze out any final progress that can be made with this volume and these exercises. And in mesocycle 6, the exercises have been changed and the volume has come back down to 18 sets. The change in exercises will allow a novel stimulus to be introduced, so volume doesn't need to start at maximum levels. Through experience, the trainee can develop an understanding of knowing when to alter different variables at different times for long-term hypertrophy progress. Thanks for watching, and hopefully you got something out of this video. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already.